My name's Derek Orr. I'm the business development manager for Carrier Lumber, and previous to that I was the chief of McLeod Lake Indian Band for 9 years. What I've been told by our elders is it's the spirit of our being. And having said that, there's significant challenges because due to the past and residential school, we weren't allowed to speak our language, and there was a whole generation of our members that lost that ability to, or their parents lost that ability to pass it on to my parents, and then our parents weren't able to pass it on to us. So for instance, at McLeod Lake, we are working towards, and I don't speak for McLeod Lake, but I just know that it's critical, and they do have programs that are working towards trying to revitalize the language and to bring that back to our people. So I do believe so. I think we're going to have to change as a society though, and whether Mother Nature pushes us towards that or we slowly do. I know that we're taking small steps in trying to use less energy. I eventually do believe that we'll move from fossil fuels and carbon-based fuels to probably electricity and natural gas. That shift will go. So I think that there will be a greener future and there will be a future for our children. However, at the same time, the world's going to change too. There's less animals in the bush, and as a society, I think that First Nations have to change in order to keep up with the changing technologies and to be a part of. And that's why I think that it's so important that we get our kids in school, educate them, and to make sure that they have enough knowledge to be the leaders of our communities going forward. Well, I haven't been able to really connect in the elders the way I wanted to, and haven't heard a lot of the traditional stories. And that's because a lot of it's been wiped out or doesn't exist anymore. We have a lot of we have the traditional values of helping one another, kindness, respect, all that, all those values. But I think the biggest factor that leadership can show today is the ability to change and to adapt and to become different. For a lot of us, we've grown up with probably more challenges than a lot of people. However, those can be changed if you do the right things, and it takes blood, sweat, and tears. And that's the message as a leader that I wanted to show. It was very apparent in my younger years that I probably wasn't leadership material, but because I made significant changes in my life and did the steps necessary to get healthy, to educate myself, I was able to take that knowledge and change and become a different person. And you ask anybody in my younger years if I would have been the chief of McLeod Lake Indian Band, it would have been a definite no. I was waking up feeling hopeless, feeling like that life had nothing to offer me, and that I wasn't good enough for anybody or anything. That's why I want to spread this message to as many kids and people as possible, that great things can happen. And I went from, and I'll just say it, I was heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol, but on my path after I decided to lead a clean and sober life, there's certain things that happened that just projected me into this life that I couldn't even fathom, that if I thought then, I would have shortchanged myself and had not as good a life as I did today. But as the steps that I took, and I had a lot of help doing this, I didn't do it alone. There was people in my life, there's mentors, there was people who I sought advice for, friends that helped me get to where I was. So I didn't do this alone, it was with a lot of help. We have to be a part of the economy, And the world has changed, and now it's a resource-based economy. And I believe that First Nations have to leverage that as much as possible to get as many benefits to run the health, education, to build their economies and to build wealth. The current system of INAC providing monies, transfer payments to First Nations doesn't produce wealth. It's just a flow through. If we start to build companies and start to gain assets, then we're starting to grow something and can be a part of. If we can get those major contracts and partner with people, we can get significant amounts of profit that we can use to invest in properties, plant, equipment, membership, and other things. Absolutely. Each First Nation has different beliefs, but I think as we go forward, more and more First Nations are starting to see the opportunity in the benefits. You have a number that are signed on to the pipelines and to use exploration and mining to provide resources that are so challenging to get without a company or a partnership to get more. What the government provides First Nations is a pittance, and without our own economic development and community development, it's not enough. Well, I think we're working on a training program to really help youth ages 16 to 18, expose them to the natural resource sector, as well as provide opportunity to expose them to post-secondary opportunities as well. It's so critical that we make them aware of the challenges that are coming. 78% of jobs moving forward are going to need at least a post-secondary education or some form of that. And right now, with the gap of First Nations graduating on reserve in 2016, it was estimated 4 out of 10 on reserve youth ages 20 to 24 were graduated. So if that gap, if the benchmarks continue to raise and Aboriginal people on reserve and elsewhere are not graduating, it's just going to increase, and the gap's going to get bigger instead of smaller. I think a massive amount of resources from the government is needed, and a new mindset about education and training and the education system. Right now it's read a book, memorize it, and puke it out back onto a test paper, and that's just not given the skills that are needed. I think a vocational education system going forward that provides skills in whatever trades and other such thing are going to be the wave of the future. And I heard someone say it best that you need engineers to make the plan, but you also need the people to build it. So without that, I think there's significant opportunity to grow in that area.